Sarah, we'll start with you on this one. Are you in favor or opposed to school vouchers?
I worked on the school voucher bill. It was my very first issue. As I go into the state legislature, I'll be looking at backpack funding.
I will collaborate with parents and teachers as to the issue regarding vouchers. I believe that that's a complex issue with one-word vouchers that umbrellas that, and I think it's too complex to say yes or no to that.
And now for you, Mike, and then you, Sarah, which is, what committees would you hope to serve on and why?
As a family doctor, I'd love to be on the Health and Human Services, the Social Services Committee that deals with Medicaid. I'm an expert in that. As an attorney, I think I could do a great job in that committee.
Sarah?
Well, there's two kinds of committees you can serve on, appropriations and working committees. As far as Appropriations Committee, I'd like to be on the Business, the Economic Development and Labor Committee. I'd also like to be on the Public Education Appropriations Committee. As far as working committees, again, I'd like to work on the Business and Economic Development and also the Political Subdivisions Committee.
This is a 30-second question, and we'll begin with you, Sarah. How does Utah best solve the federal lands issue in our state?
The federal lands issue is a large issue. Number one, if we can get our federal lands back, we will have the resources to fund education. The best way to do this is through a grassroots campaign. Many of you are not informed on the issue. I think once you are, you'll understand that this is a fight we have to take. We also have to build a multi-state coalition of the Western states. I plan on helping that. I have business contacts throughout all the Western states that I will get on board for this fight.
Thank you. Mike?
Sarah and I agree. We need to fight this fight. It's an appropriate fight to be fought, and we need to collaborate with our colleague states in the western area to fight. West of the Colorado, there are numbers of us that deal with the same issue. Greater than 60% of Utah's land is bound up by BLM and the federal government. That is inappropriate. We need to get those lands back so we can leverage not only the natural resources, but the property taxes from those. Funding the Attorney General's office, which I'd like to hear from them later. We need to fund the Attorney General's office to fight the legal battle that's necessary to win.
Thank you. Thomas Jefferson said, we're going to start with you, Mike. Thomas Jefferson said that state legislatures must, quote, erect barriers at the constitutional line so as that they cannot be surmounted either by themselves or by the general government. So let me read his statement again, all right? That state legislatures must erect barriers at the constitutional line so that they cannot be surmounted either by themselves or by the general government. Where is that constitutional line? What barriers do you believe must be erected, and what will you do when the U.S. government does cross that line?
Our compound constitutional republic was set up where the states founded the federal government. We've got a reversal of that at this point, where the states and the federal government are not co-equals as was initially intended. But in fact, the federal government has co-opted much of what the states should do. The 10th Amendment is very clear that whatever powers that were not explicitly granted to the federal government were retained by the states or by the people respectively. We need legislators that will stand up to the federal government. How does the federal government work? The federal government gives money, and that money comes with connections and hooks. I consider it bait with a hook underneath. What the state legislature needs to do is refuse to take the money that's offered. When you refuse the money, then you end up remaining free to do as you see fit. When you take the money, it comes with obligations. Much as Common Core has done to us, we have obligations that come as a result of that. So I, as a legislator, will stand firm in being very cautious of any connection with the federal government. Thank
you. We are the sovereign state of Utah, and we do have, there are regulations, and the federal government curls its fingers around our state as we accept federal money. But there are billions of dollars in our state budget that come from the federal government. We cannot just refuse that money. That is not reality. What we can do is we can grow our economy. We can use our natural energy resources to increase business and increase revenue here in the state. So then we can get less and less off federal money and federal regulation. I am very grateful for the strength of the state legislature. On March 23rd of 2010, they passed a resolution against Obamacare. Because of that, Obamacare, the Attorney General's office has been able to sue the federal government. We also have made other, thank you.
Question, and it'll be 30 seconds, but then after that, I'm just giving you the heads up now, you'll have 2 minutes to make a concluding statement. And before you make that concluding statement, I'll outline some of the things that constituents would like to hear in those statements. But of course, you can make that choice as to what you'd like to do. So our final question, which is really briefly, what's the name of your business? And then how will your line of work influence your decisions as a legislator? You've got 30 seconds, and we'll start with you, Sarah.
Sure. My professional fundraising will help me because, again, what I said is I have managed multi-million-dollar budgets. I understand the causes that people are working for. I will use my business sense to help the economy and the budget of Utah, in particular sense economic development, and helping the governor's office and economic development in bringing more businesses here to Utah to increase revenue, increase jobs, and increase the economy.
Thank you.
I'm a family doctor with the University of Utah. I work in Orem, and the primary impact that my job will have on my work as a legislator is that of loving and working with people. I had a choice to be a surgeon, an anesthesiologist, it could have been a pathologist, any number of different doctors. When you go to medical school, you can choose any number of different things. I love people. I chose to be a family doctor because I wanted to work with people. And as funny as that sounds, I see politics as just a different dimension of working with people to create systems that actually heal society, as well as working individually to heal people. Thank you.
We'll start with you, and then Sarah. This is the 2 minutes, and if you'd like, this is your choice how you want to use your time, but here's a couple of things that constituents are interested in. So what do you offer in the way of skills, values, priorities that sets you apart from your opposing candidate as a potential legislator? And also, what do you intend to sponsor as legislation in your freshman term? So this is your parting salvo. 2 minutes.
What I offer to the people is understanding of the individual, a love for working with people, and collaborating to solve problems. As I've mentioned, solving problems is really what our leaders should be all about. And I do that every day on a practical basis. People come to me, and we work together to solve the issues that we face. I'd be privileged to not only use that capacity to understand the individuals, but also the capacity that I have as a constitutional scholar and studying at the BYU Law School, the framework under which we all function. And the fact is that we have, on the federal side particularly, drifted far from our constitutional foundation. We need to make sure that the people are responsible for themselves. And the first thing that I would do in the state legislature is to work on the healthcare co-opting of individual responsibility. I believe I'm best suited to work on that because when we free up the costs that we have associated with healthcare, we can shift those off to all these number of different objectives that we may have as to education or infrastructure. We're fighting the fight to get our federal lands. I'd be privileged to use my skills and ability to serve you, and I want to be with you. I'm a man of the people, I'm not a man of the party. I have worked with people for all of my life and been privileged to do that. I believe the party has power and it needs to be accounted for. At the same time, I believe that we can be beholden to party dogma and principles if we're not careful about what our core values are. As a man of the people, as a man from the outside looking in on this political process, I love the people, you people, to stand by me and support me in this. And I'd be honored to continue that collaborative process through all the terms that I would serve until you felt you needed to kick me out and get somebody else in. But I'm Mike Kennedy, and I hope I can get your vote on June 26th. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. When you're voting for Sarah, you're voting for the economy. again, my service here with the Utah Republican Party, again, conservative principles. I have fought for those and I will fight for those in the legislature. I'll tell you, my career as a fundraiser, they say there's two things in fundraising: managing resources and nurturing relationships. And I think those two things will do me very well in the legislature and help you. As I represent this district, because I'm familiar with the process, I will be representing you from day one. I understand how to get things done up on Capitol Hill because I have made the relationships, I've understood the process, I've taken the time in community service to know how things work on Capitol Hill. As far as legislation is concerned, the first place I'm going to go is to help our small business owners and entrepreneurs. The Governor's Office of Economic Development, they have laid out, they have found 1,900 regulations that are on our businesses right now. In the 2012 session, they were able to get rid of 346 of those regulations. And I will continue that legacy to lessen regulation on our businesses. I have a 5-point principle that for businesses and for my service in the legislature: lower taxes, less regulation, a top-notch infrastructure, a qualified workforce, and well-managed and limited government. And I will be taking those 5 principles to represent you in District 27 up at the state capitol.
Thank you.